Hello, everybody. This is your LCS enthusiast, Emmanuel Slade Jaime, and today we have Alex Valth 95 Blatt with us, and I'm going to talk to him about League of Legends, and I'm going to ask him some questions in this interview about League of Legends, obviously, and the NA LCS that's be going on this weekend. So Alex, thanks for coming on the Skype call, even though you can't be here, but this is the next best thing.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's not as good as being in person, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I wish you could be here, man. Wish you could be here. So, to start off with the questions, you know, how did you hear about League of Legends?
Well, actually, a lot of people they just see it while they're browsing on the internet. Back when it started, during the beta testing, my brother actually played in the beta, and I saw him play it years and years ago. So I thought, oh wow, it looks pretty cool. Guess I'll give it a try. And I played it, liked it, and basically that's where I am now.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, how long have you actually played League of Legends?
I kind of fell off the grid for a while. I played for about a year, then I took like 3 years off, and then uh, about 2 years ago I got back into it, and just recently I've just been playing a lot more seriously now. So all in all, maybe about 3 or 4 years.
Nice, nice. It's like, you can like leave League of Legends for a little bit, but you always come back to it because it always has that like good replay value.
Yeah, absolutely. The community can be at times a little taxing in like any game, but it's like you said, the replay value, how they have so many different champions you can play as, so many different roles. It's a great way to just have fun with it.
Nice, nice. And speaking of champions, what roles do you play? And what are your favorite champions in those roles?
Well, I mostly main mid lane, and whenever I'm mid, I either prefer mostly assassin champions like Twisted Fate. Can jump in out of nowhere, do high amounts of damage, and then just get out, just run away. Um, or I can do top lane, where I just kind of stay in the back, kind of farm a little bit, and just you know gank whenever I have the chance. So mostly mid and top. For top, I would say I really like playing as Yasuo, and a lot of Nasus. I think he's really fun as well.
Yeah. So when you're playing these roles, especially the top lane, do you always go for whatever you're comfortable with, or do you go more with champions that counter who you're up against?
Well, it really kind of depends. If I'm having a real bad day, just for no real reason in IRL stuff, then I'm like, you know what? I don't care what the team needs. I'm just gonna have fun with it and play as whoever I want. But if it's just a normal day where I'm totally fine, just I guess I'll actually try and do well this time, then I'll play to counter the enemy team and really work well with the team.
Yeah, I always feel like if you're having fun with a champion, then you grow with that champion in a way, and you know everything about them, the ins and outs, the counters, even though they might like counter you super hardcore, you always like love playing that champion, and no matter what, you can always have fun with that champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you play the same champion to get better with them, and ever since Riot introduced the mastery point system, it just gives you an incentive to play that champion now. I mean, sure, you've basically got to learn that champ all over again if you haven't played it in a while, but the points they add up pretty quick, and it's just a fun way to get out there.
Yeah, like the mastery thing. I think it's really like a fun thing that they added because it makes that replay value even higher because if you play a certain champion, the more you play it, you want everybody to know you're like, hey, this is the champ that I like to dominate with.
Yeah, I really like it. It's really just more for the bragging rights more than anything. Like
Yeah.
you see this Twisted Fate only master one. Oh, he doesn't do that well. Then you get destroyed at the same time. So you can't really take it for granted. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if someone's got like a fifth mastery Rengar, I would watch out for the jungle.
Oh yeah, I would totally be scared. I would not go near any bushes
Where are the
whatsoever.
wards?
Yeah, where are the words? And for to explain the Rengar, um, his ult it like makes him invisible and it gives him move speed and it gives him a full stack of his passive or like mana. It's like the other form of mana. It's like energy or something, isn't
Mm.
it?
Yeah, it's energy, I
Yeah,
believe.
energy. So like gives him full everything, like everything he needs at like just with the click of a button, and then he can just jump on anybody and like just, like explode them.
Yeah, it's horrifying, really. Like he's really great late game for ganking, but
Mm,
early game he just destroys farm wise. It's
yeah,
impressive.
it's crazy. So do you agree that Riot Games has done a great job so far with League of Legends?
Yes, I would completely agree with that. Like, they've kept the core element of the game together ever since I was playing, years ago. Like, they had like half the champions they had now whenever I first started playing.
Yeah,
But whenever I came back and I saw like, all these different champions, I'm like, holy crap, there can be so many different things to play.
yeah,
And and I was exactly right because there's so many things you can play. Uh, the game's completely free to play, so you're really not paying anything for it.
yeah,
There's internet and everything, but that's a whole nother matter.
yeah,
And if you're really invested in the game, then you can actually spend money on it to get like skins and more rune pages and quintessences and everything.
yeah. I always love getting that money to buy the new skin and show it off in game.
Yeah, the new skins specifically, like I've brought this up with other people, like the final boss Vigar, you
Oh man,
know,
yeah,
it looks great because every time you hit someone with his Q, his baleful strike, whenever he kills a minion with his Q, he gets permanent ability power,
yeah.
and it gives you like a little level up sign, and it's really cool. It's really just the nice little things that really make it worthwhile.
Yeah, it's like reminds you of the old school video games.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you had to work so hard to get to that final boss, and you see this really intimidating guy, and then you just see Vigar.
Yeah, I think the final boss Vigar, and actually, I think it looks amazing, cause
Hmm.
like doesn't he have like a big giant hand also?
Yeah, he has a massive hand.
He's about to like pimp slap somebody.
Get out of here.
Do you have like any advice for anyone that's wanting to start playing League of Legends?
Well, uh, I would, I would like to say the good things first, but there's always bad that comes with the good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So I'd like to start off with the bad and then get to the good. You
Yeah,
know, the bad thing about League of Legends is that it's a MOBA. Like any MOBA, like any online game, there will be a bad community at one point. It's impossible to miss it.
yeah,
You go like 0-3, they'll be like, "Oh, you're feeding. We're gonna get reported." And so, they report you and then you go to tribunal or something, and then nothing happens because they were being stupid.
yeah,
But it's the hassle of it all. So,
yeah,
aside from that, it's just like any other MOBA. Um, in terms of community and rage and everything. But what's really fun about it is that the game will be different no matter what you play. You can't have the same build every time. You
yeah,
know, like you've got to play to the team. You got to play to your enemies. You need to know what your limitations and your teammates' limitations are. It's like I said, you're not going to get it in a day. It's like you said. You need to make the climb. Once you do, things will get easier for you, or they'll get harder. It just
yeah,
depends on where you are at the time. But if you're going to start trying it, I would say try it now because they've got all kinds of benefits for starting out. New players, refer a friend and everything. So I would say the best way to go is to try to convince a friend or two to play with you, and then go from there. Because starting out on League by yourself is kind of boring,
yeah,
but once you've got people with you, it just flies by.
yeah. I agree. And a thing that like I really hate is when say for instance, like you said, it's good to get around the different roles and get a feel for them, and say that you end up playing a certain role and you're not very good at it, in my other podcast, I said that it's important to communicate with your team and be like, hey guys, this is my first time playing this role, and maybe even first time playing that certain champion. You know, if you talk with your team, not everybody is going to be mean. There are still few good people out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And you can be like, okay, what do I build? And what shall I level up first? Because there's probably people who have other accounts and know the game more, and you can just be like, hey, what should I build? How do I counter this? What should I max? What ability?
Hmm.
And usually they're pretty helpful because you're like, okay, this is my first time. Please go easy on me, guys. Because that's what a lot of the pros like when you ask them advice. They're like, I'm on a losing streak. I'm getting really frustrated. It's like, what should I do? And they're like, just take a break because a losing streak's gonna happen. You're just out of it. You're on tilt. Just take a break from the game. Go for like a run or play a different game.
Hmm.
Just clear your mind because there's nothing you can do about it. The game's already happened. The game's already lost. But the important thing to remember is to win more than you lose. Because if you win more than you lose, then you steadily climb up the ladder. Obviously, it's not going to be easy peasy as winning like like 3 games in a row and you're like boosting through levels. But
Right, right.
like long as you make that commitment and steadily climb up the ladder, you're gonna get there. No matter what, you're eventually gonna get there. Obviously, where the game's gotten so big, there is so much more like competition.
Absolutely.
Cause there's even like new teams in the NA LCS that I haven't even heard of until like today, and I'm just like, whoa, who are these guys?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been keeping up a lot more regularly, and then you see these random teams are like, where'd they come from? What? Magic?
Yeah, so speaking of the NA LCS, do you have a favorite team?
Well, as of last season, my favorite two teams were TSM or Team Solo Mid or Team Dignitas. But since Team Dignitas has undergone a really big uh, cast change
Hmm.
or roster change, rather, sorry, TSM is pretty much my favorite team right now.
Yeah, and that's like a thing I've noticed with these teams. It's like if certain players aren't working out, they'll just be like, okay, well, it didn't work out. See you later. We'll get somebody new. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand if someone's not trying to communicate with the team or not trying to get better, have teamwork. I can understand that.
Yeah,
That's fine. But how do you expect to have a good effect, a consistent, good game and good effort if you keep switching up the roster?
yeah,
Like, TSM wouldn't do as well. I mean, I'm sure they would do fine, but TSM wouldn't do as well if they switched up their jungler or their top immediately and then switched it with someone and had another game like an hour after. They would not do as well.
yeah.
No way.
Cause when they have these splits are like what, like 3 or 4 months
Hmm.
roughly. So it's like, how are you gonna judge by 3 or 4 months of playing as a team rather than like the pros like for like NFL or NBA, they get signed for like a 1 year contract.
Hmm.
It's like they have time to improve over that year to show that it's like, hey, I'm on this team for a reason. Let me show you why I'm on this team. And how are you supposed to do that with only like 3 or 4 months if you're just coming in out of nowhere?
Yeah, yeah. I see your point, and I completely agree with it. Like, I don't. It's like I said, I don't expect how they want to get a consistent effort if the teammates don't know each other well enough because that's what teamwork comes down to. You need to know the player, know what they're good at, know what their capabilities are, and work around it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, who is your favorite pro player, past and present?
Well, like I said, I've played top and mid, so it's normally gone between a professional mid or a professional top. Um, but consistently, I would have to say Zion Spartan, who's currently on Counter Logic Gaming (CLG),
Hmm.
because he plays consistently well. You know, back in season 4, I believe, he played a lot of Jax up in top lane, and
Mm.
Jax is more of a kind of carry tank.
Yeah.
And every time I saw him play, and there were games that obviously they didn't win, but almost every game I saw him play, he was carrying that game consistently very, very well. Like if I'm a cutie pie who's the ADC at the time, didn't carry, Zion Spartan did. It
Mm.
was it was always just a good, just wonderful to watch for me.
Yeah. And like during the last season, that was more of a different meta other than the tank meta that we have now. So, Zion Spartan could play those carry top laners
Absolutely, yeah.
because you got a lot of the carry top laners that I've seen, like Jax, like you said, he's more of like a carry tanky kind of person. And then I also saw him play Riven, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I remember that.
So it's like it's crazy how Riot Games changes the meta so much. But do you think that's why people play it? Is that why, they
Absolutely,
keep coming back? Because the meta keeps changing, and, people have to adapt to the changes.
absolutely. I think that is at least 50% of why people come back to play because like I said, every time you play the game, it's different. And what 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 also adds to that is the meta. I personally don't like the tank meta, like I said previously,
Mm,
but it's always a nice change whenever you have to learn something new and then adapt and get good at it. Because once you're good at it, then it's not that big a deal. I guess I'm just not that good at it yet, but it's like I said, it just takes time to get used to it.
yeah,
But personally, like I said, I don't like the tank meta, but I'm glad it's not the carry meta. I'm sorry. I'm glad it's not the same carry meta because just having the same people play hundred couple games in a row, it's gonna get really boring.
yeah,
And ever since they changed the meta, you've seen more champions like Gragas was always played, but now he's like top tier. You see Gragas, you hardly see any Kazakhs anymore. You see
yeah,
he's more of a carry. You see Sejuani. I never saw a Sejuani in the carry meta, in the previous
yeah,
carry meta. Now I see Sejuani's everywhere. So it's just, it also brings out how you need to learn champions because I had no idea what Sejuani does, and
yeah,
I learned the hard way from a nice ult to the face. That wasn't fun, but it was a learning experience. So,
yeah.
yeah, to answer your question, I think it's a great way that Riot changes the meta.
It, yeah. It keeps it definitely interesting for sure.
Hmm.
And another thing with them changing the meta, it's like not only do they change the meta with like champions and stuff, it's like they also change the items.
Hmm.
It's like they take away certain things that nobody even uses, and then they add new things. So it's like you can even build differently in like different metas too.
Yeah, you could go, dare I say, tank Kazakhs. It wouldn't work out as well, but you could do it. And yeah, it's like you said, they change up the items every now. They don't take away all of them. They modify some. Like Black Cleaver, they modified it and changed it,
Yeah,
and now it's actually used in the meta a whole lot actually.
yeah.
But and for example, one they took away, Deathfire Grasp.
Rest in peace.
I loved that bloody item. I normally play like AP characters, AP Twisted Fate,
Mm,
and that was an essential part of my build. And, they replaced it with Luden's Echo, which is fine.
yeah,
And the passive bonuses like movement speed and the passive damage effect where it hits other targets. That's fine, but Deathfire Grasp will always hold a special place in my heart.
yeah. It's like even though they take it away, I think they always bring it back in like some sort of way.
Hmm.
Cause like I said, might not necessarily like take it all away, but like modify it.
Hmm.
So maybe they'll bring back Deathfire Grasp, but like in a modified way,
Oh, I would love that.
because that was like a big part of like the assassins. And it's like you take that away, and it's like, oh, okay, Loon's Echo, it's all right, but it's like, people wanted, that burst damage LeBlanc that everybody hates.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone hates LeBlanc. If you're laning against LeBlanc, it's going to be the worst time of your life.
Yeah, it's
But
definitely gonna be a rough game.
yeah, but I agree with you. It would be really nice if they brought back Deathfire Grasp. Obviously they would have to change it up.
Yeah,
It wouldn't fit the meta as it is. As like it's like if they replace that with Lich Bane. That's a part of specific of like champion specific builds like Twisted Fate or Nasus and characters like that. Uh, you know, ADC Nasus. I mean, tank Nasus would not go well. But yeah, like you can't trade off specific items. You know, there was a time in between before Luton's Echo came out, and they got rid of Deathfire Grasp, and I was lost on what to do. I'm like, oh no, that was like the first item I went for. Do I go for Zonias now, or what do I do?
yeah. So I know that the NA LCS, the summer split, is actually happening in a couple of days, Saturday, May 30th, and I want to go over the teams and who do you think will come out on top for the week, and obviously I want to give my opinion about it, and you know the first game that we're gonna have on the NA LCS, like first week, day one, is you know, probably the new El Clasico, Cloud9 versus Team Solo Mid.
Oh man.
Now, we both know that these two teams have been neck and neck for the number one spot in the NA LCS.
For a very long time.
Yes, for a very long time. With this matchup, you know, Cloud9 lost their mid laner, High, and they have a new mid laner, and his name is Incarnation.
Mhm.
Now, this guy, I've never even heard about this guy, like at all.
Me either. You bringing it up is the first I've heard of him.
So you see, it goes back to where, High was like the shot caller, like at least participated in shot calling. They were like so solid, but this spring split that just happened, you could see that they lost some of their luster,
Yeah,
and
I absolutely.
it's like can they bring it back with this new mid laner? It's like, is that possible? It's like I said, this is the first time I'm hearing about him. This is the first time you're hearing about him. I'm kind of skeptical about this guy. It's like, is this guy even good?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't know anything about this guy. Like, I don't know his stats. I don't know anything. I mean, he could completely surprise me.
Yeah, because when Wild Turtle, the AD carry for Team Soul Mid now,
Mhm.
when he replaced what was his name? It's been so long. Chaos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
chaos.
Chaos. Um, when he replaced him, like he wasn't even officially replaced. He was just a sub, just trying it out,
Hmm.
and they ended up replacing him because he did super well. I even think he got a pentakill in the very
Yep,
first game he played.
absolutely. He got a pentakill with Caitlyn. It was awesome.
But going back to the Cloud9 roster, so they replaced their mid laner, but they still have their top laner balls, their jungler Meteos, their AD carry Sneaky, and their support Elimination. So everyone but the mid laner is still there, and I know that mostly the jungler and the mid laner share like shot calling.
Yes.
So do you think that Meteos and this new guy would mesh pretty well?
Well, I would, for their sake, I would hope they would mesh well. because it's the little things that junglers and mid laners have to take care of. But mid laning, I'm not saying is the hardest role. It's difficult because you're in the middle of the map. You could be attacked from top lane, from bot lane. You could get hit from behind. It's a very dangerous role, but you're looked at to carry the team towards the end. But the jungler, I think, has the hardest role of all. They have to be everywhere at once.
I agree.
Yeah, they have to be everywhere at once. They have to ward, they have to de-ward, they have to gank, they have to keep up their farm, and they have to not try to not feed it all in one process.
Yeah.
It's easily one of the most difficult and rewarding roles. And High and Meteos, they had a very good combination going. I remember watching them at the spring split and against TSM for the finals actually, and it was an incredibly close game. Those two brought it out because Meteos, he was kind of losing in the farm area against Santorin, TSM's jungler,
Mhm.
and but he brought it out. He won the lane, and at the same time, Meteos and High would start to gank both lanes, and they would completely bring it out for the team because they meshed well. They had good chemistry. I think that if Incarnation and Meteos can mesh well, I think they could take down TSM. I don't like to admit it, but I think they
Yeah.
could.
Because, like I said, we don't know anything about these guys, so
Mhm.
we'll leave it to themselves to show that they could still compete with TSM.
Absolutely. At this point, it's all just speculation.
Yeah. So moving on to Team Solo Mid, um, you know, the powerhouse of North
Hmm.
America, and one of the longest probably running teams. Like one of the first, I think the other team is Counter Logic Gaming. It's
Hmm.
also like one of the first teams that were made for NA LCS.
Yeah, one
So
of the longest running and arguably one of the best teams in.
yeah,
Yeah.
so some of the strengths that I like to go over is they're mechanically skilled solo laners.
Hmm.
The jungler often focuses lanes to snowball early game advantages, and they have a very strong mid and late game team fight shot calling because
Yep.
of Bjergsen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's the chemistry we brought up earlier between jungler and mid laner. Bjergsen and Santorin, time and time again, they just dominate the lane. Bjergsen has an incredibly aggressive play style in the mid lane.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
especially with champions like LeBlanc. LeBlanc's a hard champion to play against in general, in my opinion. Anyway, there's some people that think, oh, it's easy to play against, but for me, LeBlanc's a hard champion. I feel like if I played against Bjergsen in mid, I'd probably go 0-15 the probably first 5-10 minutes.
I agree. Bjergsen is definitely one of the best mid laners in NA.
Yeah, I completely agree. And
So
Santorin, I think he's up there with the junglers. I don't think he's the best. I'm sorry. I think Meteos is one of the best as well.
mm,
They're constantly in engaging each other. They catch each other in the jungle. It's always a bitter fight. So
yeah,
I think this fight in general will come down to the junglers and the mid laners.
I totally agree. So you know, no team is perfect.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
there's going to be some weaknesses, and some of the weaknesses is, I hate to say it, but Dyrus, the top laner
Mm.
for Team Solo Mid, he often gets shut down out of the game completely.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the enemy team junglers know that top lane's an important role. Shut it down as possible whenever possible, and you will do better.
Mhm.
The sad thing is, it happens to Dyrus a lot. I feel
Yeah,
like, with all the experience he has, he could anticipate, getting shut down and everything.
yeah. You see, it's like no joke. Every single game, they go for Dyrus.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. Yeah.
like no surprise. Like you said, he should know by now that they're gonna go for him no matter what.
Hmm.
Because the way the meta is right now, it's like if you're obviously a pro team's gonna do this. No, not in solo queue. God forbid anybody places any wards. And the bot lane's hard to gank solely just because they get a sight stone early and they ward up the bottom lane to see where their jungler's at or
Hmm.
if their mid laner's coming down to gank. So they play pretty safe. So it's hard to gank the bottom lane. Now the mid
Yeah.
lane, if they have good synergy with your jungler, you can pull off the gank. But it's still pretty hard because they got their abilities if they have dashes ins and dashes out if they have
Mhm.
them, and then they also have their flash, and if they actually ward up, then it's that one's pretty hard to gank too. Now top lane, depending on which side you're on, because one lane is that or not one lane, but one side's actually longer to get back to your turret than the other one. I,
Yes,
I believe it's purple side,
I believe so. Yeah.
and so you gotta think to yourself, okay, I'm gonna get ganked mostly every game. I
Hmm.
should probably ward up and not get ganked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if you have to wait at the fountain for a solid minute. You get that extra ward, and you keep yourself from getting ganked. I mean, I don't. I mean, Dyrus.
Yeah. Then a couple other weaknesses. The bot lane suffers while in lane. Now, before when they had X special, I thought they did pretty good.
Mhm.
But now they have a new support, Lust Boy. It's like I don't really think the bot lane suffers in the lane. I just think they play less aggressive. I think that's partially to do with the new support Lust Boy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's the ADC because Wild Turtle, he's proven that he can be very aggressive. Like that penta kill we brought up earlier. Like his first
Yeah.
game, he got the penta. I think that's a perfect demonstration of an aggressive ADC.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying Les Boy's doing bad, but it could stand to reason that because he's not maybe with Wild Turtle as often, maybe they
Mm,
can't be as aggressive. You know?
yeah. Yeah, and also, like where like I said, he's kind of new, so maybe just a little bit more time, to play with each other.
Right, right. Get that synergy going.
Yeah. And the last weakness is they're lacking in early game objective control. Now, see, yeah, the early game can snowball, but where they're a very strong in mid and late game team fight oriented team,
Mm.
it's like, do you either want a good early game objective control team, or do you want a very strong mid and late game team fight focusing team?
Yeah, I don't like either decision. Um, because well, I can understand if it's late game, but whenever it's late game, it is far more crucial because early game, a few hundred gold here, it is important, but I don't think it's as crucial as it is late game because it's about what you can do. Like, do you want to trade that dragon for the Baron? What
Mhm.
do you want to? It all. I don't know. It's just objective control is important in general. I feel like if you're 10 minutes in, you should at least have a dragon.
Yeah, definitely. Because that dragon boost is oh so important.
Absolutely, especially what if you get Dragon 5, it can compete with a Baron.
Yeah,
So they kind of cancel each other out, and Dragon is a permanent buff. Not Dragon 5,
yeah,
but Dragons 1 through 4 is a perma buff.
yeah.
Once you get Dragon 5, it doubles the early bonuses.
Hmm.
So, like I said, it can compete with Baron. It doesn't have the little things like it doesn't increase. It doesn't make you have Baron minions. Make them stronger. It doesn't give you a quicker recall.
Yeah,
But in terms of team fights, it can add up. it can add up to an even playing field.
Yeah, definitely. So, in your opinion, considering the new mid laner for Cloud9, do you think Team Soul Mid will win, or do you think Cloud9 will win?
Well, in terms of laning, I would say mid lane TSM will win. Yerksen is a very aggressive mid laner. I don't know. I don't have any idea how this incarnation guy plays. He could be very aggressive. He could be very reserved. I don't know. But either way, I think TSM's Bjergsen will win that lane. I th-
Mm-hmm.
and especially because I think also jungler will win their role because like we came coming back to earlier what we said about the jungler and the mid laner synergy.
Mm-hmm.
The chemistry they need. Santorin and Bjergsen have been playing for a long time together. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Meteos and Incarnation, pretty new. Probably don't have the knack for it yet. And I think that is just enough to give them the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think their AD carry, Sneaky, he's very well. He's very good at what he does. Wild Turtle for TSM is very good at what they do. But I think it in terms of ADC bot lane,
Mm-hmm.
I think support is going to be the major role,
Oh
major
yeah.
crucial point. And since Lust Boy's pretty new, I think Sneaky and Elimination's chemistry will go probably be a bit better.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think it comes down to top lane. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that TSM's actually just going to win the game because jungler's probably going to win his role because of the mid and jungler synergy.
Yeah.
So I think if that happens, then Santorin will probably be able to shut down the ganks on Dyrus, giving him the advantage in the lane. And if he does that well, I think that'll, assuming they don't go super late game, I think they will win. I think TSM can pull it out.
Yeah. And like we said about the whole synergy thing, um, I don't think that Incarnation and Meteors have that performance that they need to beat Santorin and Bjergsen. So I think also that Team Solo Mid will win just because they have a new person on Cloud9, and I don't care if you're like super good or not, you're still gonna have the first game jitters,
Absolutely.
and you know where Team Solo Mid's a more established team just because they didn't switch anybody out over the splits. So I think Team Solo Mid will definitely win. So the next team, or the next two teams rather, playing are Counter Logic Gaming and Team Dignitas.
Hmm.
Now, with Counter Logic Gaming, they have a new mid laner, and this mid laner, Pobelter, he's played on Winter Fox, which sadly got knocked out. So I think
Yeah.
that's why he's on CLG. And oh, go ahead.
No, no, it was just entertaining.
So I think Pobelter is a good addition to Counter Logic Gaming
Mm.
because he's a very good, skilled player mechanically, and he's very, very aggressive in the mid lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I think Belter could. He's one of the top tier mid laners in the game right now. Uh, it could just be because CLG. It's an established team, been there about as long as TSM. They know what they're doing. Belter, he's right up there. He hasn't always been there, but I think ever since he's gotten here, he's been destroying,
Yeah,
doing great.
yeah, I agree. And not only did they get Pobelter, like an aggressive mid laner,
Hmm.
I think that the addition of their newer jungler, he played last split, but he's still, their newest jungler
Hmm.
this year, is X Smithy, which he played in the LCS before under Team Vulcan, if you remember who they were.
Oh, good times.
But you know, he's a pretty good jungler, and I think with the addition of Paul Belter, I think them two can do some serious damage.
I agree. Not to mention, CLG just has a really stacked team. They have Doublift,
Yeah.
a very good AD carry. They have Aframu, a very well established support, and then they have my personal favorite, Zion Spartan. I, honestly, I think it's a very terrifying team to watch.
Yeah.
X Smithy and Pabelter, they're new, yeah,
Mm.
but I think with all three of them, I'm sorry, the other three well-established players, they're going to do well, and especially since X Smithy and Pabelter. We keep coming back to the jungler and mid laner chemistry.
Mm.
They're both new. I think they're going to latch onto each other right off the bat and just have a great early game, great late game. I think they're just going to do well.
Yeah. Like I agree. I think this team is absolutely stacked. I mean, just like the bottom lane and the top lane, it's like they're like if I had to choose in like an all-star team,
Hmm.
I think I would have the top lane and the bottom lane combination of Double Lift and Afromu definitely like in my all-star team.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. They have really good teamwork. Dublin's a very aggressive ADC, and Aframu, it's like he knows what you're gonna do support wise before you even think
Yeah.
it.
So we've established that CLG is a very stacked team, so we
Mhm.
don't really need to talk about more of that because they're a stacked team.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I want to talk about Team Dignitas, which over the years have been maybe not the best team, but definitely an entertaining team.
Absolutely. They
Now,
had people. They had Zion Spartan. They had. I'm a cutie pie who he streams almost pretty much full time now. He was one of the best AD carries in the game at the time.
yes, I totally agree. So now, from back then, the only two members that I know are Shifter, that's in the mid lane, and Kiwi Kid on support.
Hmm.
Now, Shifter, I think he's a very good mechanically skilled mid laner as well. Do you think he can match up with Pobelter, or do you think since Pobelter is switching over to a new team, do you think he can match up to Shifter's skill level?
Well, I think Pabelter will win the matchup, namely because they, not just because CLG has a very stacked team, but like I said, the jungler and the mid laner, they're going to go well together, and you know I look at Team Dignitas and I don't really see very many names I recognize. Like, you know, that's fine. You could be the underdogs, but it's hard for me to compare a very well-established team like CLG against the new people of Team Dignitas. You know, it's just kind of hard to compare apples to oranges.
Mhm. So, with the Team Dignitas coming in with pretty much like a completely new roster,
Hmm.
do you think they're you know, working up to being another one of the like top teams, or do you think there will always be, that team that, wasn't just quite good enough?
Well, I like to think that they are good. They are good to a degree.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's always that one degree of where, oh, hey, this is our limit. I guess we can't get past that.
Yeah.
Like Team Dignitas has been like that for a long time. I think. But it's like you said, they've always been one of the most entertaining teams at the very least.
Yeah.
I honestly hope it stays that way. I would like to see them improve, but if they stayed where they're at, I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah. I just wish, they had Scar and I'm a cutie pie on there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Cutie Pie himself is a party.
Yeah. So we can both agree that Counter Logic Gaming would probably take this match.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fair assumption. I think so. Yeah, CLG would win it.
Alright. Then the next team, these teams are kind of fairly new, Teammate and Team Impulse.
Mm-hmm. I'll say for Team Impulse, they do have an established mid laner. They have Zhao Zhao.
Yes, yes.
I, and I've seen Zhao Zhao play a lot in the pros. He hasn't been my favorite person to watch, but every time I see him play, I can guarantee a very cerebral game type. You know,
Yeah.
he's very precise in his choices. He always counters the enemy mid, or at the very least he counters them late game. He's very cerebral, and it kind of gets in my head.
So, you know, Zoe Zhao, like I said, he's very skilled mid laner.
Mhm.
Um, so the thing I like about him is that, he can play a lot of different champions. Like, it doesn't even matter, like, what he's playing, but he can play them all.
That's right. He's very diverse. Like he can go from like Yasuo to Karthus in a split second.
Yeah. Because, you know, even if he's losing lane, like, you say he's down a couple kills, maybe he died in lane, his farming is, like, phenomenal.
Yeah, especially when he's a Karthus, for example, who has you spam that Q, you get like 30 CS in a minute.
Yeah.
You add that together with a guy like Xiao Xiao, and it just adds up really fast.
Yeah. So, you know, the only other person, like I said, that I recognize from Team Impulse is Apollo, and he's not one of the best AD carries, but I think being LCS status, I think he's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think he's one of the more grounded ones. Like you can take him more seriously.
Yeah.
Like you don't expect anything from him. You're just like, oh, if he does okay, cool. But if he does well, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, 'cause I think people would consider him as like one of the underdog AD
Hmm.
carries.
I agree. I agree.
Now these other guys, like I said, some of them probably imported, from China.
Mm.
So it's like I don't see how Apollo communicates with them.
I have no idea. Poor
Well,
guy.
poor guy. But watching them play, you know, I think they probably do have those communication problems just because, like I said, they're a mixture of like Chinese and then, North America
Mhm.
nationality. So it's like I honestly do not see how they communicate in game. Well, I mean, there's the pings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the pings and everything can only go so far.
yeah,
Like ping's more specific for solo queue when you're playing by yourself. But if you're in a team, like you're normally you're in a chat, you're talking, you're trying to figure out what you're doing. I agree with you. I have no idea how he's supposed to figure it out.
okay, so we're gonna move over to teammate. I haven't really known much about teammate. Like I said, they're fairly new, and I don't know much about them. So it's like I said, they're fairly new, and
You
you,
don't know what to think about
I don't
him.
know what to think about them. Um, are there gonna be another team that just comes and goes like Team Dragon Knights? I mean, obviously they were good enough to get into the LCS.
Right. Yeah. What I want to see more teams doing is I want to see them switching out.
Yeah,
If it's a best of three game, I want to see like one time the main mid laner plays, the other game the substitute does, and whoever does the better, they can figure it out for
yeah.
the third game if it comes to that.
See, funny that you mentioned that is because in the mid-season invitational, um, SKT
That's right. SKT they had a
did
substitute.
they did substitutes. They didn't have Faker like in the main roster. He was actually a sub, so they brought him in to play the finals match.
That's right.
So it's like I think that would be something they could introduce in maybe down the road because I kind
Mhm.
of like that idea because maybe one guy's not doing so hot, we'll just sub him out.
Right. I agree. I do agree because It's a good way to keep your team fresh.
Yes, certainly. So between Team 8 and Team Impulse, I'm gonna have to go with Team Impulse.
Well, I would if they can surprise me. I'm just going to go ahead and give it to Team 8.
Okay.
Just to the underdog.
Yeah.
I want to see them do well. I really do. I want to
Yeah.
see something good happen from
Yeah.
them.
It's always good, to see the underdog win, because it's like, hey, these guys are pretty darn good.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
it's like,
It draws more attention and makes the game interesting.
and like a bunch of things that I've seen during watching LCS, I think a lot of the stronger teams get cocky and underestimate these teams that are like uprising.
That's right. Like Cloud9, whenever they started out, they
Yeah,
underestimated them and they blew them out of the water.
totally agree. So let's move on to the last game that's going to be happening Saturday, May 30th. Is Gravity and Enemy Esports, and these two teams are fairly new. I mean, I think Gravity played in the previous LCS, and Enemy Esports is definitely newer. So what we're gonna do is probably just go to Gravity first and talk about them, since I think they were in the LCS longer.
Yes,
So now Bunny Fufu
that's an amazing name.
yes, it is an amazing name. But Bunny Fufu, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's been on another team. I just can't remember.
Was Curse Academy, I think?
Curse Academy? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
Curse
Curse
Academy.
Academy.
Okay, so, you know, he has the LCS experience, and I've seen their AD carry Altec play, and I think is actually, a pretty solid AD carry. I think, you know what? I think I've seen him on Winter Fox, actually. The
Oh
team,
yes,
the
yes.
team that got eliminated. But it's kind of funny because the previous AD carry that they had was Cop, which was also on Team Curse a while
Mm,
back.
right.
But it's just weird how they replace people just like that. So
Yeah, yeah. It's odd. It's like I've said before. I'm not a huge fan of just randomly switching people out. But hey, if it works, go
yeah,
for it.
and another thing that I see with this team Gravity is you know I think NA teams have been importing more and more players from Korea and China and Europe. So if you import people from Europe, yeah, sure, they have like the funny little accents maybe,
Mm,
but if you import players from China and Korea, it's like again, kind of like with Team Impulse, how do you communicate with these people? Like I think they import from like every region except for like other regions importing from NA. You don't see that.
absolutely. Yep.
So I think there might be something to say about NA.
They may have a little issue with a few things.
Yeah. Let's move on to Enemy Esports, and you know, I think these guys have been in the Challenger Series for a long time, and they're kind of like a new team in the LCS. They finally got here, and I think it's like you said, time to see some new blood, new
Right.
names, like in the uprising.
Right. I agree. I think it's time, bring in the new blood, get their feet wet, let them get a taste at the LCS, and if they make it, awesome. We get to see more of them. And if not, well, all right. Here comes the next group.
Yeah. A thing that I just now noticed is their mid laner, Inox. I think did he not play for CLG or like the name looks so familiar.
I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, not
I think he was on Evil Geniuses, I believe.
yes, he was on EG, Evil Geniuses. He was their top laner, I believe.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So, he has LCS experience, but, I don't think any of these other guys do. So,
Yeah, at the same time, he was also a top laner back
yeah,
then. So it's a completely different mindset, I think,
yeah,
for, in the LCS, awesome, you're the top laner for the LCS. Well, now you're the mid laner.
yeah,
It's a totally different experience.
yeah, I agree. Because it's like, he's probably doing some of the shot calling, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
You know, because obviously it's always going to come down to the jungler and mid lane synergy.
Right.
we
Yeah,
always,
we keep coming back to it, but there's a
yeah,
reason for it.
yeah, there is a reason for it. Just because, it's the tank meta and the combination of the jungler and mid laner shot calling and, uh, cohesiveness is is just, it's unbeatable.
Absolutely, I completely agree. You get great jungler, great mid laner. They talk to each other every day. They know what they're doing. It's almost unbeatable.
Yeah, and like we said before, like it's hard for the AD carry to do much because it's the tank meta. So it's
Mhm.
like there's nowhere else to go to but the jungler and mid laner.
Yeah, the AD carries. I think in this meta are just at a distinct disadvantage. Like top laners, I feel like nothing's really happened to them. In some cases, top laners can be switched out for mid laners, like we figured out with Inox.
Mhm.
But it doesn't always work that way, and the champions don't. You can't play an AD Kog'Maw mid lane. You can go AP maybe,
Yeah.
but it's a little different. So we got to switch up your play style. It's all you know. AD carries just have it hard.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see this battle between Enemy Esports and Gravity since they're, fairly new teams. So, honestly, I'm not even sure who would even win this matchup.
Well, whenever I can't figure out something like this, I always go to the child method, eeny meeny miny mo, and that style for me has figured out that I think I'm going to go with enemy esports. I think I'm going to, you know, I think that if Inox he can transition to mid,
Mhm.
figure the transition out, get it going, then I think he could become very crucial in the game, in the match. I think
Yeah.
he could lead the team.
Yeah. And a thing that I just found out is they're actually Enemy Esports was actually number one in the Challenger series.
Oh wow,
So that says something right there.
that, that's an impressive feat. It is not easy to get to even fifth place in Challenger.
Yeah. So there's that. So if I'm going by being number one, which I might, or I can go with Gravity, which I think their logo looks pretty cool.
It all comes down to the cosmetics when you don't know what to do.
Yeah, then go down to the cosmetics. Or I can just maybe just go with Gravity because they have some Korean blood because the Koreans are so overpowered.
They're invading.
Yes, they are invading. So, but I'll actually agree with you with Enemy Esports just because I want to see some new blood and they got first, so I want to see Enemy Esports do well.
I agree.
So we're gonna recap. We're out of time now, so thank you, Alex Valth 95 Blatt, for joining me in this League of Legends interview and mixed discussion.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, I'll see you later. Maybe we can play some League.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you later, man.
All right.